Welcome to this video about my Maserati Granturismo. In this video, I'm going to be fitting wheel spacers to the car. Now, I've been looking for my YouTube statistics, and apparently 3.3% of you find this video after looking for the cat driving car. Sorry, there will be no cats driving my car. There will be no cats even near my car. I don't have a cat. I have a budgie and a rabbit, but that is it. So apologies for that. But I hope you enjoy this video nevertheless. If you do enjoy the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Thanks.
Right, so I've got some H&R wheel spacers here for the Maserati. So yeah, as soon as I realised that the MOT was going to be cheaper, essentially after it failed the first time, just on those three things, I kind of got itchy feet and bought these, which is a bit stupid because they were 354 quid. But they were a lot cheaper. I wouldn't have done it normally, but they were like 60 quid cheaper because of some deal that came up, and I couldn't find them anywhere else for less than about 410 delivered. So I got these from Autodoc. They seem to be okay. They take about 2 weeks to deliver those, so yeah. But if you don't mind waiting, and I suppose it was a cheap price. God knows how you send them back. The RA system, it's obviously, it's got the, I've forgotten the word for it. What is it? I'll stick the word in a minute when I can think of it. But these ones, it says 44mm, they're actually 22mm. So these are for the front. And there's the number. These are black, so that's what the B's for. That number stays the same. You can have it with S, or is it no S? I don't know. And then it's in silver. Obviously, I wanted the black because my wheels are anthracite or something. And then these ones are the ones for the rear. And these are 50mm, so it's 25mm per side, right? You can see that these ones got returned, and one of them is slightly. One of the nuts is slightly dirty. I'm not fussed, I don't really care. But just a point there. I'd rather they did that and kept their prices down than, you know, basically threw all the stock that was returned in a bin or sold it off cheap or something. It just, you know. So yeah, what I was losing the word of is this ring here. Hub centric, there you go, hub centric. So what they've done is they've made a groove in the back that slots on the current hub locator, sort of hub centric round thing, and they've added the one on here so the wheel slots on here. So what this means is that your bolts are only holding the wheel in place. They're not keeping it aligned. So these ones keep it central to the hub, and then this keeps the wheel central to this, which is central to the hub. So that's the thing. So it's stainless steel inserts there, and you can see that on the back, this is the back face, they're bigger, and then on the front face they're smaller, so they can't really pull out, which I was a little bit worried about. So what they do is they provide all these small bolts, and these bolts are supposed to be good for the car. So these ones bolt it through there onto the current hubs, and then I use my original wheel nuts to bolt in here, which is good because Maserati wheel nuts are 22mm and expensive. So I think I've already mentioned this a bit, but you can see this is why I wanted the spacers. If you come here and you look here at this angle, you can see that the front wheel is right inside. I mean, a lot of cars do this. Most cars have the wheels inset, but this is like really inset. I mean, look at the rear wheel. It reminds me of an E-Type, except the E-Type did it because that's what they did in the 60s, whereas this is just a bit bizarre. It's like, yes, all the way in the wheel arch like that. And you can really see it when you sort of come here. It's right set back, and this is standard, you know, they're all like this. So the 22 will hopefully bring it out just that bit and make it look a bit better. Apparently the wheel bearings on these are really strong, so you know, there's no real fear of anything like that. Quite why you need a 25 on the rear, I'm not sure, but that's what everyone said. So 25 on the rear, 22 on the front. But you can see just how bad that is, like that. Right, so bits that I need. Obviously I need my jack. I need a piece of wood as well to put on here
because the side skirt gets in the way. So you've reeled the jack underneath, there's two sort of cutouts in the bottom, put a piece of wood, and that just stops it from all this from catching on the side skirt, and also it gives it a bit of padding. Of course you can get proper rubber pads especially made for these jacks, and I really must get some because it would be good. Torque wrench, Maserati wheels are 98 Newton meters on the torque wrench. I've got a normal one just to help. 22mm socket with extension. I've got a 17mm socket for these smaller bolts that go into the hub. I've got the wheel spacers. I've got the instructions telling me I have to take it to a specialized authorized shop to do this. It's like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. Everyone does that. That's kind of the setup you need. So what I need to do is I need to back the car onto two bits of wood there, because my jack won't fit underneath. There's not enough gap to get the jack underneath. So I just drive her onto two bits of wood that are about 40mm, a couple of inches, something like that. Just raises the car slightly, and then I can get my jack underneath. One thing I got to say about this Maserati is every time I look at it, every time I get into it, every time I start it up, it just feels like an occasion. It just feels like something different, you know. It's really quite a nice experience to have after, you know, having fairly boring cars most of my life. Now that bit of horrible whirring sound that you just heard was the variators. I'm going to be fitting an accumulator to see if that works in the meantime, but yeah, it's going to be one of my next jobs, and a difficult one at that. Now you need to find the jacking point. They're about sort of 20 centimeters in from the edges of the wheel arches, just here. See, it's this bit here. That's the jacking point. Look how fast I work at this bit. This is really, really cool. Look at the speed and the muscle and the prowess there that I'm showing. Wow! Yeah, right, I'm fast forwarding this bit because otherwise it's really, really boring. So, first thing I've just noticed already. These weird bolts that stick out that Maserati do to hold the brake calipers in place, brake rotors in place, are in the way. Two bolts here, and when you go to stick this here, they get in the way of that nut there. These two bolts just hold the rotor in place while you're putting the wheel on so that the rotor doesn't move. So they don't really do anything, and this will now have 5 bolts holding it in place. So I think the answer is just whip them out and forget them. So one of the first things they've said in the instructions, I've only got one key by the way, so I better not lose that. One of the things they've said is you've got to make sure that when these things slot in, oh, for one thing, clean all that off and clean all your brake rotor off as well, so there's no dirt holding it skewed, because you know you could actually have a bit of dirt that holds the spacer slightly off, or the wheel slightly off when you fit the wheel just to the car normally, and then you'll get a slight shimmy vibration. So I always clean it really well. I've cleaned these because I've already had these wheels off 2 or 3 times already, but I'll clean them again just to make sure if I do this. But yeah, so when that goes in there, one of the things you need to make sure of is that your wheel nut does not go beyond the edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to screw one of these in, because obviously if it protruded beyond, then it wouldn't sit very well. So I've got my nice straight razor blade here, and I'll just use that as a guide, and I can see that I've got 2mm spare, so they're all good. So that's the first check. Second one is make sure that when you put the spacer on the hub there, and you screw in the bolts that you don't have anything binding on the inside of the thing. I think that should be fine. As I say, these have been fitted to, this is a standard kit, loads of them have been fitted all over the world, so this should be, because they're specifically made for the Maserati, these really shouldn't have any issues. Come off. You can see with the special bolts that they've supplied, I do have this slight, comes out about just over 21 millimeters. So 21 millimeters, it does protrude beyond the end, but I suppose that's not terribly surprising. What did the original bolts do in the original hub? If I put them all the way in like that, that was 21.5. So those bolts protrude, those bolts there protrude through 21.5. These ones protrude through 20.5. So we've got about a millimetre more on those. I think that's fine. As I say, it's quite an easy thing to check on the front, certainly. I know there's nothing behind there really to run into it. And I'm fairly confident because, as I say, so many people have fitted these things. But I will check. Also, I will take my jack thing out there before I trip up over it, knock the jack out of the way and drop the car on the ground. That wouldn't be funny. What I'm going to do with these is I am going to put a touch of, what's this stuff called? Copperies. A little bit of copperies on here, even though that's aluminium, wheel's aluminium. It just stops you from getting a locked on wheel, because that's horrible when that happens. I had my Jag, years ago I had a Jag XJS V12. Got it for £1,000. And I undid the wheel and the wheel wouldn't come off, and I ended up having to undo the nuts, drive down the road and jam my brakes on, because I tried every other method, and I didn't want to hammer too much. I hammered a fair amount, or kicked it, and had a rubber mallet. Wouldn't come undone. That was the only way, and it went like this because it was on there, rusted on solid. So I always put a little bit of copperies on here. I'll put a little bit of copperies on these. In the future, next time I'm in here, I might actually replace the copperies with Loctite, because Loctite will do two things. It'll stop it coming undone, but also it seals the threads and stops them from corroding up. So it sort of does what the copperies does, but it adds in the fact that you've locked it on. So this is some really cool sort of stainless steel type stuff. No, not stainless steel. It's for cleaning stainless steel. So it's Scotch-Brite, but it's like a really, really, really strong one. So I'm just going to make sure that I've really got this nice. Right, so I've now cleaned all this up. I am seriously tempted to go and get a drill bit and clean out each one of these little holes, which is full of brake dust. I might actually do it in a minute, but what I want to do first is really get this on. So I've cleaned this all up, fairly happy with it. A little bit of staining left in the grooves, but nothing serious. It's all nice and flat. I'll just get the stuff off of here quick. So I've got no old grease that might have bits of metal dust or something, or anything like that on it. So I've got a real nice clean surface. Yeah, so later on I will probably stick, what do you call it? I will change this to Loctite in the holes. I'll probably about do it. It goes on like that. And what they've said is that these, I'll make a little bit of grease at the moment. These need to be done up to whatever the manufacturer did. Get more. Of course, the slight pain is that there's nothing to stop this one from turning. Now, if I had someone to help, and I wasn't such a grumpy, obnoxious person, and I had people to help me, then someone could step on the brakes. But that ain't the case. God, it's cold. Which way am I going? That way. That might be enough, you know. Let's see. Then I'll go up to this one. I'll sort of almost opposite. Back to this one. Forward to this one. And back to this one. Nothing dragging on there. No signs of any, oh my god. Just in case I got some muck on the brake discs. And we'll just quickly, because my fingers are greasy and I keep on holding it. Back to super fast mode again. And then all I need to do is get a little drill bit, poke out each one of these little holes here to clean it all up, and get the wheel on. So far, so good. Cool, eh? This might take some time. It's not bad, actually. Oh, it is if you can't get the bloody thing in there. Right, so just done the wheel. That's ready to go on. I can see now why people buy those wheel hangers, you know, long bars that shred in the hole, and you just hook the wheel on it and then you can slide it up to it. Because I must say, I'm getting a little bit fed up of trying to lift these things in place. Why isn't that going on? Oh no. I did check it, didn't I? Yeah, I did check it. Yeah. So it's just teasing me. I thought for a minute that maybe the hub-centric ring wasn't fitting inside the alloy, and I was just about to have to cut the video while I proceeded to go around swearing, screaming, and absolute banshee type howling motions as I try to figure out how to send these back to, all the way back to, what's that place called? Germany. So, that'll complete this one. Well, the rear is pretty much the same as the front. So, just like the Haynes manual used to say, repeat the previous steps. So, there you go. One side with spacers. So you can see now that that one's nicely in line, as is the rear one. So you've got this nice line down the car now. And they are, I get a little bit nervous about these sorts of things, but I'm quite happy with that. I think that looks pretty good. Whereas this side, where's my wheels gone? Look how far those wheels are in. And the rear one, look how far it is in. It's terrible, it's like hidden in there. It just looks wrong. So what do you think of that then? With spacers? Without spacers? With spacers? Without spacers? What film did that come from? I'll give you a bit of a clue. Some say that he's an uglier, fatter version of me, and that when he went to DFS, he got a lifetime ban for jumping all over the sofas and running around the store. All I know is, I'd really like to have a go in his Mustang. So that brings me to the end of this video, really. And yeah, I'm quite happy with my wheel spacers. I feel like it's just added that bit. I mean, it's a bit of a, it's one of those things that was a little bit expensive, but it really makes a difference to how the car looks. So my next job will be doing the oil change on the engine and the diff oil change, and I'll be fitting the oil accumulator as well. So the oil accumulator will be pre-oiling the engine before each start, in the hope that that just sort of gets me around having to do the variators for a little while. I have to do them, but if I could just delay it a few months, that would be great. So tomorrow on my drive, I'm going to be draining out the 9 litres from the engine and 2 litres from the diff, and trying not to tip it over me or the drive and then refilling. So hoping that should go quite well. It should be a quite straightforward job, but sometimes these things don't go quite as straightforward as you'd like. Anyhow, if you've enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. And yeah, see you again. Thanks very much for watching.